Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are going to deep dive into change orders. And I think let's kind of talk about change orders and maybe what some people have experienced. You have a client that you have a large job, you're working on their home or their office building, doing a big project, and your client comes in and says, "Hey, by the way, I just have this one minor thing I'd love for you to look at," and no problem, you go ahead and help them out because you want to keep that client happy, right? So now months go by and you realize that you just ate that profit. Why did you eat that profit? Because you paid for all of the expenses that incurred with it, but you didn't actually change the scope of work and their invoicing. So this constantly happens with construction companies, and things just kind of add up on the job regularly, and verbal agreements fall through the cracks, and so they aren't ever gone through, and revenue is just leaking quickly. So today we're going to change that. We're going to look at really figuring out how to master those change orders. What are the steps that you can look at and make sure that you don't lose more money than you want to. So let's bulletproof those standards and dive right in. Sorry about that. Some technical difficulty in me figuring this out. Oops. We will share my screen. There we are. All right. So change orders and eliminating revenue leakage and protecting job margins for contractors over $1 million. So the first thing is basically any unbilled extra work. That is why we have change orders. It's materials that have been upgraded or random jobs and tweakings of maybe the build site and just quickly doing them because perhaps you've been on this job for 6 months and you just want to get it finished, or the client comes out and is looking at the progression every single week and just over time, oh, what about this? What about that? And so these verbal agreements are really what kind of erodes our profit margin on each project, because a lot of times it doesn't get from the person who's talking about it over to the accounting team to ensure that our estimations or scope of work is in fact updated, and so that we can go through the proper forms of ensuring that it's all invoiced out. Because although a client may verbally agree to it, until it's actually written, then there is room for he said, she said, and we really want to just eliminate all of that. It also delays invoicing, so all these extra costs are hopping in on your regular day-to-day business, and the accounting team may not really understand that this is something outside of the scope, and perhaps it's just part of the job. So when we get all of that billing finally invoiced out and we kind of deep dive into things, then the client, they're like, whoa, 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 this is not what we talked about, and we're not paying for that. And that is worst case scenario. And we want to make sure that everything is just upfront, clear, and we can move forward with what the scope of work actually is. So how can we go about ensuring that this is really taken into account for all of our invoicing, all of these little tweaks on the projects, a marble upgrade from a laminate, or whatever it might be? We want to make sure that those are taken care of immediately on site, and that we capture photos, describe what was completed, and any site conditions before starting it. That way we have documentation to say, no, this is the thing that was requested, and we want to go ahead and move forward with it. Then we want to make sure that we have all of the pricing in order for the accounting team or your sales team to go ahead and write up that new change order from the original estimation and project scope of work so that we can get it out to the client and have that written client approval. So then they're seeing it again and saying, oh, yes, I do approve of it, no problem. Because as we know, there's a lot of back and forth that may come up with your pricing, and they may want this change, but then they see the dollar price of it and may renegotiate back down to what they originally did. The estimation and change orders really just keeps it very clear for every party what each person is control of. And so there's no, when we create these change orders, there's just better clarity for each party to understand that this is exactly what I'm going to be paying for. This is exactly what I'm going to be getting. And then the fourth one is just making sure that you're updating all of your accounting records or sales software. There's many out there, but just ensuring that the whole spectrum of people, not just the people on the job site, that they're getting information of how to change it, but all of it is then tracked so that we can stay on point with how the job is progressing. Scope creep and approved change orders. So this is those minor adjustments that are happening, and they just really can erode that profit margin that you have on each job. So this impact is really like the quick favors. Hey, I need you to change this faucet to this upgraded two-handle faucet. I'm not a contractor, so just kind of throwing that out there. And then sometimes, and a lot of times, it just ends up being absorbed by the contractor themselves and have these extra expenses that were never then invoiced out. So it's really ensuring that there's that formal contract amendment that reflects this extended scope of work so that you can efficiently go through and everyone understands what is ahead of them. Profit margins, a lot of times we see that you can lose up to 10 to 15% of this extra work. And when small businesses or large ones, this can erode that profit margin pretty quickly. We're already on tight budgets, everyone, especially with rising supply costs and rising costs for your labor. We are always wanting to adjust and make sure that things are taken care of, because the worst that you want is to basically be paying to be on the job. That doesn't lead you for doing well on the next job and being able to give the best value for those people. So make sure you're tracking all of your hours, making sure that those that are on the job, they're doing what they should, and you have a detail of their planned day, and then did you do any extra work, and making sure you're billing those out. And it really protects your crew and your business and maintains that accuracy throughout. And then the next thing is connecting field logs to financials. So there are a multitude of software out there to help those that are on the job versus those in administration and in the office. And so choosing a software that can sync automatically is a great way. Paper, email, those can get lost. And although that can be a good workaround, having some sort of financial software that works with, we love QuickBooks, that can work within there, that will help keep everything up to date and sent out on time. So that is it for us. If this has helped you out figuring out maybe how to tighten up your change orders, I love that. We hope that you can join us next time. If you want to hit subscribe on our channel and make sure you're notified for the next item that we go through. We are really looking at our construction companies earning around 500,000 to 10 million and trying to dial in their processes so that they really can feel secure and build a better business, because we really feel that when you know your numbers, you can own your future. I'm going to leave that today, and we'll see you on the next one.